Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today we will be doing a first look at the game North Africa 41, the Western Desert, March to December 1941. This is a design by Mark Simonitch. It is part of his 4X series, or the ZOC Bond, ZOC Bond, Zone of Control Bond games, and is published, as are all of his stuff, pretty much by GMT Games. So this is just, as you would guess from the name, just 1941. So all the 42 stuff, El Alamein and all that other stuff, that's not going to be in this. So just keep that in mind. But that does also leave room for a sequel, so you can always look at it that way. So if we flip it over and look at the back of the box here, straighten this out. This just arrived, still in its shrink wrap. I did also get the mounted map, so we'll see that in a little bit. But this is North Africa 41. It's a game that represents the campaign in North Africa from Rommel's first offensive in March of 41 to December 41. During that period, Rommel's forces dashed around Cyrenaica and made it to the frontier of Egypt. However, he was not able to take the critical port of Tobruk, defended by the stubborn Australians. With superior tanks and 88mm flak guns used as anti-tank weapons, the Axis forces successfully fought off two counterattacks from the east, the Allied operations called Brevity and Battle Axe. Later in the year, before Rommel could make his final big assault against Tobruk, the Allies launched Operation Crusader that forced the Axis forces to retreat back to their original starting positions at Aguila. North Africa 41 allows players to study the campaign and refight it with their own strategies. The game includes a detailed map of the Western Desert and a meticulously researched order of battle. The game uses the simple move, fight, supply game system developed in Normandy 44 and Holland 44. Important elements like supply, troop quality, tank quality, artillery support, and command and control are all reflected in the game. The scale: combat units represent brigades, regiments, and battalions. Each hex on the map represents an area 8 miles across. Each game turn represents half a month, but a game turn is further divided into 2 to 3 impulses, each representing 3 to 7 days. The game includes 3 scenarios: the campaign game, Enter Rommel, and Crusader. Inside the box, we have 2 paper maps, 2 counter sheets, 1 rules booklet, 1 playbook, 2 6-sided dice, 2 setup and reinforcement cards, 2 identical CRT TEC player aid cards, so combat result table and terrain effect charts if you're unfamiliar. And here we have our credits: 2-player game, 3 to 12 hours, mid-range complexity, mid-range for solitaire, ages 14 and up. Now let's open up the shrink wrap and see what's inside the box. Rulebook, as you might expect, and as was denoted on the back of the box. 28 pages, nice table of contents here. Okay. Now, this is pretty standard for this series and for GMT, as you might expect. This series has been running for a while now. This game, I believe, has kind of been around for a while in various iterations, and this is kind of the ultimate version of it. But yeah, so you get your introduction, the contents, information about the map, all this stuff, right? Sequence of play outline, talking about the action impulses here, stacking limits, land movement, etc. Lots of graphics and examples. Here's your zone of control, combat, attack supply, combat modifiers, tank shifts, elite units, artillery support, terrain, combat results, determined defense, retreats, disruption, advance after combat, breakthrough, supply and attrition, ASUs, those are artillery support units, and supply points, SPs, special units, replacements, reinforcements, removals, and conversions, naval transport and ports. That's interesting. Obviously, the Mediterranean being between North Africa and Europe, was somewhat of an issue, specifically for the Axis forces, who had to deal with the fact that the Mediterranean was basically controlled by the British Navy, the Royal Navy. Convoy attacks, event tables and resource points, delay markers, supply attrition, victory, optional rules, and then your scenarios. The Enter Rommel, which, let's see, Enter Rommel is a 7-turn thing here. It runs through the end of the second June turn. The campaign game obviously would be, as you'd expect, the whole gamut, and Crusader. So you have kind of the beginning, the entirety, and the ending, basically. Yeah, so Crusader's only 3 game turns, 9 impulses, starts on 17 and ends on turn 19. Hints for both the Axis allies and both sides. Some more abbreviations. Again, our credits. As usual, a lot of people work on these games. Here's a convoy example at the very back. And then, of course, the always appreciated index. So the playbook with an extended example of play. I love those. I do a lot of videos that use these. So we have our extended example of play here, which will teach you basically kind of how to play the game after you kind of read the rule book and get the basic gist. Now, if you've played some of the other 4X games, a lot of it will be familiar. I know this one's a little bit different, but there's enough similarity that you'll probably be able to pick it up if you've played other 4X games. Here are Mark's design notes, order of battle, and historical notes by Fred Thomas. Lots of good information in here. Bibliography, rating the tanks. So, everybody, when you think about the North African campaign, you immediately start thinking about the tanks. And so this is cool that they put this in here. But you got your German tanks, your Italian tanks, and of course your British tanks. And even American tanks, because they were, even though the U.S., in the time frame of this game, the U.S. wasn't in the war yet, but the U.S. was supplying the U.K. with tanks via Lend-Lease, so that is mentioned in here. Infantry Organization of the Africa Corps from Kevin Schufelt, and then an expanded sequence of play on the back. Here we have our CRT table. It's a fold-out. So as was mentioned in the on the back of the box, we have the terrain effects chart and then your CRT, determined defense, isolation, attrition, rally, combat modifiers. On this side, you've got events, infantry unit information, anti-shipping, shipping point cost table, port demolition and bombing table, attrition for both sides, disengagement, resources list, etc. So there are 2 of those, as you would expect. Here's our reinforcements. This is Crusader allies, and this would be, I guess this is probably the entire game. At start, turn 3. Yeah, this is everything because it starts at the beginning and goes through turn 3, 4, 5, all the way through to turn 19. Then the Crusader setup for the Axis, and again the campaign on the other side. So this would be also useful for the Rommel campaign, which starts at the beginning and is the first 7 turns, I believe, if I remember correctly. Counter sheets. So there aren't a ton of counters in this game, but they basically follow your familiar format of other 4X games. I won't go into details about what the numbers and so on mean. We'll talk about that when we do the gameplay video. But they are double-sided, as you would expect. And you have German forces, you have Italian forces, you have British forces, of course, as well. And some Commonwealth too, because the Commonwealth forces, of course, did fight alongside the British. We have some New Zealanders here, some Indians, South Africa. So yeah. And we have here more counters. This is counter sheet 2. There are only 2, so you have some markers and so on and so forth in here. Air superiority, some shipping stuff, victory point tracks. And then we have a map key. Well, actually, this is the map. Sorry. This is the map. So this is the regular map. And this is a big map. As all North Africa games have, the game is very narrow, or not deep, I guess, but very wide, because you have the entire northern coast, not the entire northern coast, but a big chunk of the northern coast of Africa represented in this campaign, stretching from, like Morocco and things through Tunisia and Libya and into Egypt, all the way across the northern part of Africa. And then we have our 2 dice down here and our box insert as well. So I elected to go for the mounted map. So let's take a look at what's on the mounted map. And here's our mounted map in its package. Okay, so this is how it comes. You can see it's fairly large. There are 2 pieces, one piece being bigger than the other piece. So I am going to spread this out. I'm actually going to move to an alternate table that's wider. My main table here, my wooden table, is only, I think, 55 inches wide. This is a 60-ish inch long map. So I'm going to take a quick pause here, and then we'll move to the other table. And then you'll get a better look, rather, at what this looks like. And here is the mounted map in all its glory. So you can see you've got your map key up here, campaign game victory track, allied remnant display, resource points, and then here at the bottom you've got allied replacement and supply pool, the Nile Delta area, which is of course just to the east here, allied eliminated box, reserves. Then you've got your turn track there, your attrition table, surrender box, removed units, withdrawn player turn phases, sequence of play. You've got some ports here, Mursa, Bardia, etc. Alexandria's over here. So on this side, as we head towards the west, anti-shipping table, port demolition and bombing table. Again, a lot of these are on the player aid cards as well, but it's kind of nice that they're also on the map so you can see them. Port of Tobruk stuff. Here's Tobruk right here. Now the map actually continues pretty far to the west, and I'm going to slide it over here in a second. But our seam is right here. So the one sheet here, the eastern sheet, is 3 panels, and the western sheet is 4 panels. So your western sheet is slightly longer than the eastern sheet. Okay, so here we see the other side of the map. So this is the far western side. You have Tripoli over here, which is kind of off map. So you have El Agila right here, which is kind of the far western part of the map itself. We have an Axis eliminated box here, just as we had the Allied one on the other side of on the Egyptian side. So this is obviously the Libyan side. You have your Malta status track here, Port of Benghazi, resource points, Axis replacements, Italy stuff up here, Axis remnant display, Italy convoy table, etc. The Gulf of Sirte. Then you have, here's Benghazi. You can see all of the kind of Qattara depression where there's really not going to be any combat possible. And here, deep desert basically. And up here you have northern Libya going through here, Derna, Tamimi, down to Tobruk again, obviously. So you can see the terrain, as you would expect, is largely going to be desert. You have cities, etc., ports, airfields. So here in Tobruk, you see you've got some groundworks. You've got rough. There's a lot of rough here. Jebel, etc. Your dashed lines are tracks. You have railroads in some places. So that is a look at the mounted map for North Africa 41. This was kind of it was an additional purchase, but I think it's worth it. I love a mounted map. GMT's mounted maps are always very nice, very well done. It's got the nice linen texture on it. It lays pretty flat pretty easily. This is actually pretty flat, and this is the first time I've had it out of the packaging. So quality stuff as usual from GMT. I will be getting this played in sometime in the near future. I'd like to do actually a 4X series because I have I have Holland, Stalingrad, Salerno, Normandy, and now North Africa. So there are several I'm missing, some of the older ones, Ukraine, Ardennes, France, that I just don't have. But this one I think will be, you can see here's a seam if I press on it. This is actually a function of my table because my table's a fold-out table. So it's got a little bow in the middle, a little rise, rather. And if you push on this, it actually pushes that part of the map up. Anyway, that's going to do it for this look at the new game that was just released, North Africa 41 from GMT Games, designed by Mark Simonitch. As I said, I will be doing a play video on this game sometime in the not too distant future, hopefully. But in the meantime, if you would like to possibly consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing to the channel, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate it. But that's going to do it. My name is Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.